All right, everybody. Welcome back to the 1% podcast. It's been a couple of hot weeks, but that doesn't mean the baseball stops. These guys have been traveling to Houston a couple times, actually brought back some hardware. But before we get into all of that, tryouts and whatnot, Garret, Sean, how you doing?
Doing good. We're blowing and going, man. We're about to be gone for 5 weeks in a row, tournament-wise, and then just lessons and stuff. So we got 35 days straight, no days off, basically. So loving baseball, loving the summertime. It's been good.
There you go.
A lot of travel. It's exciting, though.
Yeah.
It's good.
We're heading back to Houston this weekend. WWBA and Tom Ball. That'll be competitive. It'll just be some better teams. I think there's 2 Hawaii teams in that as well. So we're just getting some different competition, which is what we want, especially when we get to that age. Like, we want those guys seen as competitive stuff as we can get them in and just force them to have to figure out how to compete against better talent, you know. That's what they need, especially if they want to see themselves continue to grow and play at the next level. Like, you got to see that stuff. So
Steel sharpens steel, right? You don't want to be out there.
Yep.
I mean, these backyard tournaments, there's some value for teams that are growing and building, but if you want to get better and get some presence, especially with the older kids, and get some exposure, you're going to need to play some talent.
Well, I even said for us, like growing up, these guys from their freshman year of high school to now, like the 17s are obviously going in their senior year. I felt like I did them a disservice, honestly, for like holding them back as long as we did. You know, they obviously weren't the most talented group, like just raw baseball talent. They know that, right? They've had to work very, very hard and diligently to get themselves at a point where they can compete against the teams that we're competing against. But if even last year, if we were to take this 17U team and go play in the tournaments we're playing today, we would have got dog swiped. Like, it would have been terrible. Like, we just would have been murdered left and right just based off the physical talent and the level that we had, right, on the team. But I think that we held them back too long playing in some of the backyard tournaments. Obviously, COVID happened, so we couldn't go travel and find the better teams to play. But, like, dude, they needed to see that freshman year. And that's what we've been talking about with everybody in our organizations. Like, we might bring a team in, start them out as AA, AAA, whatever. But, dude, if you want to be able to handle 91, 93 when you get to 17 years old, like, you have to see that stuff. And it's not that a 13-year-old kid's going to be throwing 91 and 93, but it's going to be more competitive at the higher levels, right? And even within what we're doing. And so I don't even care if we go out there and lose. It's, again, how do we lose? Did we compete and then that team just flat out beat us, or did we beat ourselves based on the competitive edge, the energy, the lack of focus, the mental focus that was in the game, and just not being prepared to compete? But, you know, it's good now because we're getting to see better competition. That's the biggest thing.
And I think the next thing, too, is, like, a lot of these dudes, like, they don't realize, like, how or who you're competing against. Right, like when we went to the WWBA last time we were in Tomball with the 16s, we walk out there, first game of the weekend, we're playing a Marucci elite team coached by Adam Dunn, right? Former big leaguer, and honestly one of the best teams in Texas. And like a lot of those dudes, like you could see, like it's like holy crap, like this is what it is, right? Like that's Division I baseball if that's what you aspire to do, right? So
you said there was a couple D1 kids, right, committed already?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4.
Every guy on that team was going wherever they wanted.
Wow.
They were legit. Like,
I mean, it was stupid. Like,
it's fun, too, because even that, and I'll let you finish what you're saying, but, like, even that, because we both were at that game. It was the first game of the weekend on Thursday. And, dude, like, I'm just watching the guys, how they move. Now, those guys obviously probably have a little bit of attitude about them. They have a little bit more just, like, I don't know what the phrase is, but they don't have to, like, they don't have to bust their ass all around the field, right? Especially in the stuff that may not be as important. But, dude, I'm watching, like, the catcher just, like, work and the motor on this guy and, like, bouncing around ball to ball. Like, it didn't matter if there was nobody on base and it was, like, a little ball that, like, he blocked it and kicked to his right. He's bouncing around and getting the ball back to the pitcher with some, like, velo on it. They're just, like, moving around fast, you know? And these guys, like, just faster-paced games and – you see us, and it's like, whoa, you get punched in the mouth a little bit if you're really not ready to play at that level. So
yeah, but I mean, it lets them really understand like who we're competing against, right? Like you get out of San Antonio, you get out of Central Texas, and it's like, man, like there's a whole lot other talent and baseball players around here that are competing for the same job as you, right? And to tie into what you were saying too, like you start to really see, like, when you're playing those better teams like that, is like you're not going to get away with mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest takeaway I had, because, you know, we go back to that game, like, we were up on them 7-6. Like, through the middle innings.
They went 6-0. We come back in and we put a 7 spot on them in 1 inning.
So like, we were up 7-6. Right? And then we came make a couple miscues there on defense, and it's like they just fucking blew our doors off.
15-6 or 15-8.
Right? So it's like you look back at that game, and it's like, man, like, we can't let a couple pass balls or hit by pitch or errors in the field, like, because they make you pay for that shit, right? Just the same as it is in college baseball, right? So it really just lets them know it's like we've got to protect the baseball and really, really play our game more than anything.
Dude, I think this is just a side note, but I think for me, the most important position on the field that is, like, starting to, like, glare itself right in my face just in terms of, like, our personnel is the guy behind the plate. Like, before, you know, you think the best player on the field is the shortstop. The guy on the mound is super important, you know, whatever. But just like coaches always say, they recruit through the middle of the field. You know, like every college, Coach Wallace said that a couple weeks ago. They recruit through the middle, so they're looking for catcher, pitcher, shortstop, maybe a couple second basemen, and then center field. But, dude, we've been on our guys' ass, the 16 and 17s, talking about how, like, y'all are losing baseball games. We are losing baseball games because of you right now. And we have been harping on them about just getting better, catching as much as they can, like, working harder behind the plate, moving faster, because the guy behind the plate is just, like, the better teams, dude, there's no free passes.
Not only that, it's like he sets the standard. Fast. It's like, this is the tempo that we're moving, and we're not getting below this. Just like that Marucci Elite team, yep. Right? Because if your catcher sucks in terms of just, like, getting methodical, right, like, everything within the game is going to start to get slow. Yep. And the moment that shit gets slow, the guy on the mound's thinking too much about pitches, right fielder's out there picking his nose, not worried about making a play, and then it's like, oh, shit, now we're down 3 runs because we're not ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's from a pitching perspective, too. Like, dude, I think – and I was talking to Guile on the phone when we were playing and just asking questions and stuff, and he was like, dude, the catching – we were just talking about the same thing I was just saying, and he was like, the catching is so terrible nowadays. He goes, it's not funny. He goes, it's not just y'all. He goes, don't think it's just you. He goes – I go to so many games. He goes, I've been on recruiting guys and actually on them. And he goes, 2 or 3 days that I'm watching, I'm just like, this guy's not the guy that we want. He goes, like, we were all over him. We thought just, like, based off video, based off stuff that we've heard, this is the guy. He goes, but it's just not competitive. He goes, they lose their focus. Pass balls, not catching balls not catching strikes for strikes. He goes, terrible. But for, like, me, from a pitching perspective, and this is what I tell them is, dude, if the guy goes out on the mound, if I went out on the mound and pitched, and I can't trust that I can throw my best breaking ball for a swing and miss in the dirt, and you're not gonna just smother it and pick it up and throw the guy out, like, now I panic. Yeah. Now I try to force the strike zone a little bit more. And so when guys start, like, they don't trust their stuff. It happened in the first 5-tool tournament we were in Austin. Is like we had to pull one of the catchers in the middle of the game and then put another guy in. And the guy that's out there, he's not a pitcher, but he's throwing his competing ball for us. But when he can't trust his stuff because he's like, I'm tired of giving up free passes, it throws the game for a whirl, you know?
Yeah, so you don't want that pitcher thinking too much.
No, you want him to be able to just literally grab the ball and throw what's being called. Like, you don't want, that's especially how I wanted to pitch. I didn't want to fucking think.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about signs at second. I wanted everybody, I didn't want to worry about anything. Holding runners on. Knowing what pitches I wanted to throw. Like, I wanted to just be basically a robot in terms of, like, not having to think. I just wanted to execute each pitch that was called. So,
but at the end of the day, like, from the catching standpoint, this is what I tell all of our catchers when we're working and doing stuff. I can get it's a mentality at the end of the day, right? Like, I can give you all the physical shit in the world that I want, drills that we can do, right? But if you're not, like, a dog mentally, you're not going to be very good, right? And it's like, I can get past the physical stuff. Again, it goes back to everything we talk about, right? But it's like, you can vividly see, and you can look in a kid's eyes and see if he's mentally, like, back there for
grip.
if he's back there for the right reasons, right? And pitchers can sense that, right? Like the feeling of like, okay, like this dude's gonna bust his ass for me, and that's what it's got to be, regardless of what the result is in terms of like keeping the ball in front or not. Like if the catcher's busting his ass for the guy back there, like that's what it's got to be.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of veer into this and just like this is what I've been kind of preaching on, especially with the 17s right now. And this is just anybody. I think anybody can take that's a ball player can take what we've been talking about this year to heart and understand that hey, this game is about being able to respond from failure, right? And it's being able to understand like I am gonna fail and I am not gonna like how can I pick myself up, right? There's so many guys that we see on every team that when failure starts to happen, and we talked about this about one of the guys on the 13s in previous months, but like when failure happens, everything else goes to shit, right? Like when they start doing something bad, especially in the box, right? Like in the box, this is where you see it the most, is that when they start struggling at the plate, everything else goes to shit, right? Whether they get more passive, they start overthinking, they're not locked into what's happening in the field, whatever that is, right? And I told them, I was like, man, no matter what you're doing and no matter how you're playing right now, you've got to make yourself valuable in more ways than one, right? This game is not just about hit, throw, and catch. It is simply hit, throw, and catch, right? But you can make yourself more valuable in other ways that are not just those three components, right? Obviously, a fundamentally sound baseball player can hit, throw, and catch the baseball. Like that's what it is, right? But we've got to be able to get away from that and think a little bit deeper. Like, okay, I'm struggling in the box right now. It's okay, right? Like you might be just being a moment where pitcher's pitching you tough. You're not getting the results you want. You're not getting any, I don't know, leeway from the field. Like you're driving balls in play, but they're outs, right? You got to let that go and not let that affect how you play the rest of the game. Because some guys, I see it literally affect them, how they walk onto the field, how they carry themselves. You can see the attitude is slightly just like beat down, right? It's like, dude, you can't let that happen. Just compete for me. Compete for yourself and figure out a way to help your team win in more ways than just in the box, right? Be the best defender, be the best base runner, be the guy that's on and off the field and picking everybody up, be a good teammate, be high energy, you got to bring value in more ways than just hit or not hit.
Well, the what sucks too is like we've seen it, or at least for me, I've seen it twice this year. One way and then the complete opposite, right? Where a guy goes out, looks good in training, looks good like in MVP, and then he goes out and he's not having success. Well, it's part of it, right? Like you can quantify that in a number of different ways, right? Guy number one may flush it and just keep competing, and then it starts to turn. Right, but then the other guy starts getting so in his head that now something that was
not a big deal,
just a baseball thing, now turns into an entire like swing problem. Does that make sense? How it can just like completely overhaul, and now we really have to make changes.
Don't rush that. Make sure people understand this. What Sean's saying is like if you cannot let things go, especially in the box, on the mound too, if you can't just let it go and move on and play the game, you could take something that's not really a problem, right? Not really, it's not a swing flaw. It's not it's not a flaw. It's not an issue, right? And you get so in your head mentally, and you start overthinking, and you start trying to force results, and you start pressing, and you start panicking, and then I start worrying, and now a mental nightmare. Well, that mental nightmare will create mechanical flaws.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
It'll change the way a guy's moving because now he's trying to be perfect and then the swing is not what it used to be. That's what he's saying. So you can keep going.
No, I mean, that's what it is. And then you look back and it's like, then it's a downhill spiral from there. Rather than we can avoid that by simply going out and compete, right? And again, like I've been in those shoes, right? Like you as competitors, like we want to have success, you want to play good baseball, but it's like you got to understand, like especially right now, it's like we told our guys last week, we're fixing to hit a stretch where it's like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, right? Where it's like it's just turning into college baseball, right? Where it's like, okay, like, we've got to get ready to play this weekend, like so you're looking in advance, right? So there's a lot of baseball, so you can't look past that and say, okay, like right now, like, you know, the world's crashing down because I'm not hitting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you got to understand, like, dude, like, the game's hard. The guy on the mound's trying to kick your ass, right? Like, he's not just going to hand you base hits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if we can get past that and just simply compete, right? Just go out and again, it goes back to the training that you do before, right? Like, if you put in the work during the week and you have full confidence to go out there and say, I trust my preparation.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the secret right there is the preparation, right? Like, this guy that we're talking about he never used to take a bad swing. Like, he'd strike out and it still fucking looked good.
Yeah.
Like, I used to love every piece of this dude's swing, even when it was, like, not the result he wanted, right? And I think he got comfortable. I think he got a little, like, complacent with where he was at and what he was doing, right? So then the preparation wasn't there as much. And you're playing high school JV baseball, right? And, you know, you're having some success. You know, hitting's hard no matter if you're facing 75 or 95, right? Obviously, as it gets a little bit more competitive, it's harder. But now he's facing some better competition, and he gets that little bit of failure that he's probably not used to, but there's no preparation on the back end, right? So he's getting failure with no preparation because he's complacent. Now he's in a mindset that's just like, I have no clue what I'm doing. And now he's in his head, right? Now he's turning not a problem into a problem mechanically. Because like now when he swings, it don't look good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now it don't look like it used to in the past.
But he's starting to get it though. Like he's starting to mentally understand. He made a comment this past week. I was like, "What's different?" He's like, "Well, I'm getting out of my own way." I'm like, all right, dude. Well, I'm gonna keep feeding you baseballs in and let you kind of take that course and run with it.
And at some point, I think with all the training, all the trainers, all the videos, whatever you're doing to prepare, implementation and understanding, and knowing because at the end of the day, you're up there by yourself. Yeah. Whether you're pitching, you're hitting, you're playing second, first, whatever. So just being able to get out of your own way, I think is critical. I wanted to touch on two things to kind of provide some context to what you guys are talking about on the teammate front and on the energy front. It's not always the worst guy, right? Sometimes it's one of their best guys can be one of the worst. And I remember we were playing a game a few weeks ago against this little pitcher from Alamo Heights was amazing. I mean, he was throwing so well. And he walked one, he gave up a hit, and then next thing you know, he's yelling at the shortstop, he's yelling at the second baseman, he's getting upset, he's pissed, throws one in the dirt, throws one over the head, he's fired up, loses it, gives up 6 runs in that inning, and was just dog cussing everybody in the dugout, was getting on the umps. And, all he needed to do was, adjust. And that's easy for me to say, right? Yeah. But yeah, you saw it in the morale of the team, who was, I think at the time it was 3-1, they were up or whatever. Yeah. They leave, he gives up whatever. It was tough. And then, so you can see how that can kill a team. Yeah. And then on our team's morale for that game, and on the hitting front, John Carlos Stanton having a great year, and they're on his ass in the papers because he's in a slump. Last 12 at bats have been shit. It's dude, he's got 50 more. He's got 50 more games, right? So, and the writers are saying that, and the fans are saying that. Yeah. But I can guarantee you that guy is dude, I've made contact on 10 of those. 12. Yeah,
he's my average exit velo is still 117.
That's a crazy thing, dude. I hate when this is just another side note. I hate when parents or kids are somebody did it yesterday. He's I had 2 flyouts and it just wasn't the best weekend. I'm when you say flyout, what do you mean? You're saying you popped up and it was behind the shortstop and between left and center field, and it's kind of just a flare? Or are you shitting on these baseballs? Yeah. He goes, no, I'm hitting them hard. I'm dude, it's your job. Yeah. There's a defense out there for a reason. Do you think this is golf where you can just pitch it wherever you want to? It's not how this works. Your job is to hit baseballs hard. If you can consistently hit baseballs hard, you'll be fine. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing about in the MLB. If you watch, those guys don't fucking miss. Yeah. They don't miss. No. When they hit the ball, it is freaking tattooed. Yeah. It's an out though. They just cover ground better, and that's That's the thing that's nuts. I think.
Well, and there's analytics, so they know where this guy's
Oh,
going.
there's more
They know where the
information.
pitch is. These guys are.
There's more information than you know what to do with.
And at that level as a hitter, you can't people are like, well, you should just hit away from the shift. Like
you're like, well, yeah, let me hit.
Have you faced
101 with sink?
Yeah, have you tried to hit 95 the other way?
Yeah, let me try that. That's a great idea, Dad.
Well, I saw a shift in Little League 10 days ago, and the guy hit through the shift.
Yeah.
that's obviously different. So you talk about hitting. You're talking about competition. Let's talk a little bit about tryouts. That's been a big question that we received in the comments and in the messages. So 3-day tryout coming up for the Tribe.
August 12th through the 14th.
Talk about it. What are you looking for? What can kids expect? Why do you run your tryouts the way that you do? And give us the rundown.
Yeah. So obviously this fall we're not going to be taking any new teams on. Every team that we have is still going to be here. For those listening that are wondering, the spring of 2023 is when we'll be trying it. In December for the spring of 2023, we'll be trying out a new 13U team and bringing a new 13U team on. So right now we only hold 4 teams at a time. But for these new guys coming on or coming to try out, for these guys coming to try out, the biggest thing is when we run our tryouts, the reason we run them the way we do, we run the 3-day for a specific reason. One, we want to see what a guy output-wise has, so based off athleticism, how much bat speed and how much exit velocity this guy can produce, how hard he can throw the baseball, right? Because that's all stuff that's important to us. It's very hard to train guys to do that. You can do it, and we do train that. But some guys just have natural, God-gifted ability to do that, right? We always say we can teach a guy to be a baseball player, but I can't. I was talking to a kid yesterday. I can't tell a sprinter. I can tell a sprinter to slow down, right? I can tell Usain Bolt to slow down and be slower, but I can't tell you to run like Usain Bolt, right? Some of that's God-gifted. And so we want that God-gifted skill and build it around the game. So what we're looking for is guys that peak above our team, right? So for guys that are coming out to try out, we want guys that are above the average or more, right? You've got to be up there to elevate the team in terms of those things. For us to be, highly interested in you. And if there's guys that are super competitors and guys that are very baseball savvy, that's what we're looking for as well. So in the first and second day, it's a little skill evaluation. It's being baseball savvy. It's having the output and having things that are going to, build your level as you go forward, especially in our system, because we do train for those things. But then on Sunday is the competitive environment, right? We try to create a game-like setting. We try to put guys in different situations and put pressure on them in ways that they might have never been in before and see how they handle failure, right? See how they handle the game. Are they competitors? Are they kind of pouty when things don't go their way? Do they cry? Do they support people around them, right? Because we're looking for good teammates as well. And that's the biggest thing, is looking for guys that really want to be there. That's my biggest piece that, if a kid asks me, what do you want from me? I want a guy that loves to be on the baseball field, right? I want a guy that loves to be out here and loves to do what we do and be around us every single day, because it's going to be a lot. We do a lot compared to most. We've been, if you look at the summertime, we've been with these 17s for probably, I don't know, out of the 90 days of summer so far.
80 it feels like.
80. We're with them every day, especially if you train with us as well. There's been guys that we haven't not seen them. We've seen them every single day for the past 2 weeks, right? So, we see guys a lot. And so you got to love it because it gets tiring. It gets a little monotonous, right? So we're looking for ball players, guys that love to be there, that want to be there, and that are invested for the right reasons.
I think that's the biggest thing. If you're there for the right reasons and you want to get better and you're hungry to get better, to me and for us, that can trump a lot of the baseballness. Mm-hmm. A lot of it.
All day long.
We've picked guys up before. It's okay, little Johnny's not the best guy out here. We know that, right? But it's you watch the way this dude walks around, and it's he wants to be here. If we give him a shot, in 3 to 4 years, this dude is going to crack the starting 9, even though he might not today, right? So that's the biggest thing is guys that are going to be receptive of the information and stuff that we provide.
Yeah. And so. One thing one thing that I like to say about the program, just because I'm a parent as well, is the development is second to none. And there was a lot of parents who were kind of getting on us or getting talking crap to me like, dude, y'all only played 45 games or whatever, we played 50 games in the spring. I was like, yeah. I said, well, great games. We won, we won, we lost, we learned. Everybody got better. Everybody, top to bottom, got better. And you could see it. I said, but while you're playing games right now, good for you, awesome. I said, we're in a long toss program. Every kid was given, well, it's not mandatory, was given their long toss program, was given an exit interview. And there's a group of kids that we have that, whatever it was 6 weeks ago when we ended, however long it was, were throwing on their long toss between 60 and 70 feet. Every one of those kids right now is throwing between 70 and 80. Several of them.
Yards.
Oh, yards. Yards. Sorry. Yeah, 60 to 70 yards. Now 70 to 80 yards. I mean, that's a correlation of development.
Yep.
And when the philosophy is play fast, play hard, throw hard.
Yep.
I mean, it's all.
This is the piece to parents that like knock on that stuff. Your kid probably doesn't love being at the baseball field. You say he does. He's gonna act like he does. But for us, like we say it all the time, is I want guys to be like, I want to hold the reins back and like them be like pulling me for, like, I want to go, I want to play.
JYD.
You gotta be hungry, dude.
It's like if you watch,
some guys get tired, dude.
Yeah,
lazy.
I'm gonna relate this to like rodeo because my fiance and her family is like big into that. If you go watch the NFR, like when they're doing like barrel races and like right when the horse is coming out of the alley, like they're sitting here holding the reins and the horse is kicking, and the moment they let it go, it's off, right? Yeah. And that's what we want for these guys, because we were talking about the other day. We're like, yeah, man, like we could like just run this season for forever, right? But the moment, like every time the 13U's come in, they're like, hey, like when are we starting? I'm ready to go for the fall. Like they're hungry, like they want to be out there, right? But these guys that we see, a lot of them where it's like it's 13, 14U baseball and they're still playing.
There's so many guys from other teams that come and train with us that are playing today, that are 13 and 14, still playing today, or they played for a very long time. And well, two things. One, because the parents that might not be around, bro. I'm like, how are you enjoying it? How are you still liking playing right now? Because I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore right now. Yeah. Do you know what fucking want that? The kid's 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you should like the kid. Are you serious? You know, like this is dumb, man. So like, yeah, like. Go play all the games you want. Like,
some programs, I'm sure it's great, right? I'm sure some of them like that. There's an outlier to every. I'm not gonna say it's an outlier, it's just a percentage that it's going well. The kids are good. Everything's working.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of bad.
Well, like here's the way I view it in my head. It's like, okay, like what's the end goal, right? For a lot of these dudes, they want to play college baseball, they want to play pro ball, they want to play in the majors, like all that stuff. It's great, it's wonderful, right? But there's a point in time where it's like, you're going to play more baseball than you can fucking imagine, right? But no, I'm serious. But it's like if you haven't trained yourself and been through it to understand that, like, hey, it's a privilege, and, like, understanding what it really means to love being out there, then, like, you're going to be done after your freshman year in college. That's the reality.
Here's my thing, too. But we'll wrap up with this, is I'm 100% on board with the logic of you have to play in game to get better playing in game, right? Like you got to face live competition, you got to be in certain situations, got to be in different situations. I 100% agree with that, right? But in the midst of that, while our guys are not playing and we're training, we're doing different stuff, we're changing approach, we're changing swings, we're changing how we're moving, we're changing thought processes, we're changing all of that. And I think a lot of kids that play year round and never stop playing, yeah, you might train on the side a little bit. Yeah, you might get a ton of at-bats, but I bet you freaking money that the swing and the approach is the same as it was at the start of the spring and it is today. And it's the same results. Nothing different, right? There's no growth. Yeah, you're getting more at-bats. Yeah, you're probably getting more comfortable in the game. It's all a great thing. I don't disagree with that. I think you need to play to learn that stuff. But at what expense? Is he actually growing? Is he actually understanding why he's struggling? Is he actually understanding what needs to be different? And have you seen growth? Have you really seen growth, right? Because to me, playing every single day does not get you growth. Playing every day tells you this is where I'm at and this is what I need to change. If you don't ever give yourself time to go change it, and let's be clear, time is not 2 weeks. It's it's not one lesson. It's 3 to 4 months of truly getting after something different and trying. Like, look at these big leaguers. Why do you think they come back different? Well, when they have their 2 to 3 months off, those guys go and change stuff. Real changes. You know what I mean? Look at Bryce Harper, right? Completely changed some approach for him this year. What is he doing? Hitting 300. Having a really big comeback season for him and starting to hit the way he used to when he came into the league, right? The stuff, like, you have to change stuff, man. You got to come back different. That's what you tell every guy after every exit meeting is if you don't come back different, you did yourself a disservice. You did us a disservice, and you did this team a disservice. And you might find yourself not on this team if you look worse than you did when you finished the season.
But understand too, right? To kind of tie into what he's saying, changes doesn't always mean physical, right? Or a lot of like. It doesn't mean like a complete overhaul is what I'm getting at, right? Sometimes you just need to think, okay, like I just need to set my approach to be more right center, or try and hit like power oppo ground balls into the 4-hole to let my swing work, right? Like all that stuff is all stuff that the game will tell you if you pay attention, and it's all ever changing, right? But you've got to pay attention and be locked into that and buy into it. It's the biggest thing when you go for that stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks guys again. We are going to have the Phoenix bat giveaway.
We'll post about it.
Yeah, we got a Drop 3 BB Core, very nice bat, very hot bat that will be given away. All you got to do is like and share, and so we'll be on top of that. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Peace out. See y'all.